Hey, family. Let's get straight to it. The UN just releases drop a report calling children arms. It's called Children Arms and Con Children and Arms and Conflict in Burkina Faso. It accuses Burkina Faso of grave violation against children, child soldiers, recruitment, sexual abuse, attack in schools and hospitals. They even gave us a number 2,483 grave violations against 2,255 children between July 2022 and June 2024. Sounds heavy, right? But the but here is the truth. This report is full of mistakes, omissions, and bias. And today we'll break it down. This is the West Best Media, where truth matters, and we always speak the truth about Africa and our Pan African movement. According to this report to the UN, violation comes in from both insurgents group in Burkina Faso and Burkina Faso owned security forces. That framing alone should make you pause because it puts the leader of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, on the same level as the criminal gangs and the jihadists network tearing the Sahel apart. But here's what they didn't tell you: schools are reopening under Captain Traore that were closed for years are now reopening. Thousands of Burkinabe children are back in classrooms, getting an education and a future that they had lost. Why is that progress ignored? Just think about it. Why did they ignore that progress? If this wasn't children and there were progress in Burkina Faso for children, why did they leave that out of the report? Now, let's go to the next section. They talk about trafficking. The majority of the trafficking isn't run by the government, it's run by international criminals network feeding the Europeans cheap labor market. From France farm to Italian factories, African children are being exploited for profit. Yet the UN leave out that fact completely. The real demand is in Europe, not in Burkina Faso. The report act like all the chaos just happening, but we know where this started, and we got to go back to 2011, NATO war in Libya. The UN gave the green light. Libya collapsed. Weapon flooded the Sahel, and groups spread into Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. How can you publish a serious report on children in conflict without naming the original source of the instability. That's a biased admission. Here's another one. That's not in the report. Agriculture is rebuilding. Gold refineries, gold revenues are being reclaimed for the people. Local defense force have pushed insurgents out of several communities, giving family room to breed. None of this made it into the report. Why? Because it doesn't fit the Western narrative. But here's the other question: who pays the UN employees who wrote this report? And here's the kicker: the salaries of the UN employees, the very people who's writing these reports, are paid mostly by the same Western countries that destabilize the Sahel in the first place. So ask yourself this: will they ever publish a report that truly point the finger back to their paymaster? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Here's the cycle we keep seeing and hearing. The West destabilize through war, sanction, and debt crisis and debt traps. The West profit through cheap labor, stolen resource, and corporate contracts. Then the West blames Africa, using institutions like the UN to publish biased reports. And the world is supposed to nod when they do these things. Then we're supposed to nod along and say yes, Burkina Faso is failing. But one of the things the West ignore, that we now have access to information. We can pull the information ourselves. We can see what's going on. But here's the truth in Burkina Faso: it is fighting against the problem that were manufactured abroad while rebuilding from within. So let's be clear. If the UN is serious about protecting children, it need to start by exposing the international trafficking network, the European markets that profit off these cheap African labors, the war waged by its own member state that create instability, the fact that its own staff salaries are paid by the very powers fueling these crises. That's a bias by itself. Until then, there's no report or nothing about this biased narrative designed to weaken African leaders and keep Africa dependent. We see it in 1987 when Thomas Sankara was assassinated by French back allegiance. We see it with Patricia Lumumba. We see it with Gaddafi. Now they're trying to set the stage to do the same thing to Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore is seen as one of the most powerful leader in Africa today. He's seen as a revolutionary. The African youth is backing him. They don't want the Sahel, those three nations, to develop. If those three nations develop, the dominoes in Africa will fall with lightning speed. Because if you have a strong, united country or states in Africa, which would be the Sahel states, those three countries together, other countries around those will either join in or start doing the same thing, kicking out the French and the Western powers. And the most likely scenario, other countries will join the Sahel region, which will make them much stronger and more dangerous for the West to overthrow the leader. Ibrahim Traore is seen as the leader, a future leader, not of Burkina Faso, but of Africa. That's what the youths are crying out, and that's what the youth are saying. The West knows that they cannot let this succeed. So they will try everything in their powers to get rid of Ibrahim Traore, because they think if they get rid of Ibrahim Traore, Mali and Niger will fall. They will fall. That's their goal. So we as a people have to back Ibrahim Traore, and we have to speak out. We have to call the West out when they publish misinformation. This UN report about children abuse and trafficking is full of a lot of misinformation and half-truth. The human trafficking and the children trafficking didn't start when Ibrahim Traore was in power. Took power. It started a long time. It started after Gaddafi was killed. But the UN didn't mention this about Burkina Faso when their man, Blaise Compaoré, was in power. Blaise Compaoré was the one who assassinated Thomas Sankara, and he was installed by France as the leader. He ruled Burkina Faso for 27 years. And everything that Sankara started, he demolished it. France didn't say anything. France allowed him to do it. So the children that was absent from schools or wasn't going to school was under Blaise Compaoré and French influence, but the UN didn't report that. Since Ibrahim Traore took over, thousands of children has returned to school. Schools has been reopened. Villages that were deserted or abandoned has now been reoccupied by its citizens. But the UN didn't report any of these progress. So my friends and family, this has been the West Best Media. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us build this channel and bring you the truth about the misinformation of the West. Yes, my friend, the misinformation that the West push We need to come together as one because we are one. We're from the same root, different branches, same root. And that root is Africa. We all came out of Africa 500,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, last year, last week, yesterday. We all came from Africa. So, peace and one love to all my brothers and sisters. See you in the next video.